be here. And I must say, sometimes when health calls and you have to pay attention primarily to your duties to save lives, and that's why it took me a little while to come here, and then so I can look all well dressed up for you, put on my three-piece suit. I must say a big thank you to Senator Britney Timberlake. I appreciate the great work you've done. I've known you, like you said, 20-something years now, and I've seen the work you've done and how you stood in the gap for each and every one of us up to this point as well. And I thank Michael Gray, my brother, who is very instrumental. I've seen him do work as well in the community. And to my wife who's here, she's also in the medical field, left work, I have to come show you. And some of my friends who have also taken time off their busy schedule to be here. My big brother, who's Philbert, who's the ambassador of Dominica to the United Nations. He drove all the way from New York just to come show us the and all the strength and purposes that I've had in the community who shoulders have stood upon to give me the support that I can and have had so far to do the things that I'm able to do. It's a village, it takes a village to do what we do. It's not easy. Like you all know, health is wealth. And COVID did show us that health comes first above everything else. And where the whole world stopped. But it stopped, but thank God for great minds who have also stood in the gap in healthcare to do the things that they do every day. As a professor, as a teacher, and all the other things that I do raising young ones. I often say this, that medicine, it's a calling, it's not just a job. And things you do when you don't feel like, when you don't feel the strength, you don't feel the energy, but you have to get up and do it anyways, because a lot of people depend on you. Their lives depend on you. They look up to you. Some people say, actually after you, you're God. After God is you, and I appreciate that for the things that they do. But before I also go on, I must thank my fellow awardees for each and every one of the people who I saw on the list. People who are doing great work in the community, and you have mistakenly chosen these people because you know their work as well. And upon each and every one of them standing in the gap for each and every one of us, that's why as a community we need to progress according here. And I'm particularly really glad to have a future award for somebody who's going to be in the future that we're working so hard for. Because things are changing. And I've always said this, technology is changing the way we look at life. And if you think it's not going to change you, it'll change the way your neighbor act, think, or behave. And it's here. We as a people, especially people of color, must embrace this technology, know this technology, learn this technology, understand this technology, but above that, deploy these technologies. Because otherwise, if we don't do that, we'll still be at the back of the bus. And God forbid, not literally, the works that Senator has done and all the other people have pushed us, not just sitting from the back of the bus, but sitting in front of the bus, but not just sitting in front, but owning the buses, owning cars, owning homes, and in places where we are now a voice to speak in our community. As you referenced to me as a doctor, every day I stand as a point call to other people, young men and women who are aspiring to be like me, especially black men. One of the issues that I talk about is please encourage the young boys to come into medicine, because if we don't, in the future, you will not see people like me standing in front of you anymore. And that's why it's so important, because the disparity that we talk about, not just come from the social injustices and all the other things, but it may also come from the work that we need to do as well. There's a whole lot of work. But before I go, I'll tell you this. Your story did not begin in 1626, or the boat that brought some people here 200, 300, 500 years ago. Your story began from back home in Africa, period. break those barriers that separated those who left 500 years ago and those who are still in continental Africa. In 2020, the buying power of the average black person in this country was $803 million. Today, that has gone to $2.6 billion. That's a whole lot of money. A whole lot of money. What does that mean? It therefore means you have the buying power to do not just bring and secure your communities and secure your investments, but also look beyond Africa. Because if I translate and transfer this room right now to anywhere in Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, or Zimbabwe, you can't tell the difference. You look like somebody who looks like you everywhere, any day, anytime, back home. And you hear the resources that they're talking about, the rare minerals, the gold, and everything else. That belongs to you too. It is time to look back home, because if everybody else, the Chinese and the Europeans and the West are going back to invest and get those resources, you too must go back. It's time to look at those investments so that you can begin to build your wealth, not just in America, but also back home in the motherland. Because the motherland is calling upon you to invest. Wealth and health and politics are the yin-yang of human existence. You cannot separate all of that. We as people of color must understand that as well. It is the time. But in closing, I'll tell you this. The thing that happened in the 1960s that changed the entire black race, here was civil rights. In the Caribbean was independence. In Africa was independence. That same rhythm, that same beat is in the air again. That came from association. Today, it's coming from collaboration, where we must put our time, money, and intellect together to collaborate here and within the diaspora back home. But if you pay attention, the reading is on. Only those who are paying attention will hear those readings. But this time around, it's not for political freedom. It's for economic liberation. Because without the wealth, the disparity that we talk about will still continue. This is the time we think about money. Because with money, we can buy everything, including our wealth. So my brothers and sisters, I leave you with this. Stand up, stand firm, continue to do the work. But as you raise yourself up, don't forget to raise young ones ahead as well. The future is yours.